Hi, welcome to my podcast, Talking Travel with Wendy. I travel the globe interviewing really cool people in small hospitality and tourism businesses. Join me each week as I discover and share something or someone new with you. You can find more at www.travelwithwendy.net. And remember, it's always an adventure when you travel with Wendy. Thank you so much for joining us here today. I am here with Jared Kamrowski from the Thrifty Traveler, and he is a travel blogger that has a multitude of information on his website. He shares credit card reward deals as well as flight deals and has a staff that helps him put that all together. Thanks so much for joining me here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Wendy. Looking forward to it.
I discovered Jared from my friends Mike and Amy with Getting There with Mike and Amy. We went to PodFest together this past March in Florida. They said, you really need to reach out to our friend Jared. You guys have so much in common. Thanks for being here. So, a Thrifty Traveler, you have so many services, including the Travel University, which I'm very interested in, and teaching people how to use credit card rewards for travel. Share some of that.
Yeah, so Thrifty Traveler's been around for 5 years as of yesterday. So it's our fifth birthday, which is pretty exciting. Yeah, and I've been doing it full time for 3 years now, and I used to work in banking. I was a CPA, and we just saw that there was a need out there. You know, there's so many websites that just blog about different things related to travel, but there aren't really too many services. And that's really where Thrifty Traveler steps in. So we have a flight deal subscription service. So we cover over 120 US and Canadian airports, like everywhere from major cities to like tiny cities like Fargo, North Dakota, or even where you're at.
Yeah, Huntsville, Alabama.
Right. We cover so many different cities. And I think there was just a huge need for that. And that's how we've been able to grow from just me to, now 8 full-time employees. And then last fall, we rolled out a new service called Thrifty Traveler University, which is kind of like a travel hacking online video course. So there's like 16 different videos. It's like around 10 hours of different footage and just tips and tricks on how to learn. And that's been really well received, especially now with, everybody stuck at home. They're dreaming about travel. Now they can kind of catch up and learn, tips and tricks how to save.
I've been trying to tell friends and clients, please do your travel planning now. Now is the best time. You're stuck at home, and have those plans in place so that when we travel again, which we will, that you'll be ready to go. So I think this is just an opportune time to study and research. So I'm really glad you have those services. So CPA, that's a little bit of a jump to travel assistance. So are you naturally a traveler? Where did you get your inspiration?
Yeah, so it kind of started off with, I love crunching numbers, being a CPA. I worked in banking, and I just saw there was these like pretty amazing opportunities to travel on the cheap. And that was kind of the initial genesis of thriftytraveler.com. I came out of college. I had, like a lot of college students, a big mountain of student debt. And my wife, thankfully, did not have any, and she wanted to travel. So I had to figure out how to travel on the cheap. So I had to figure it out pretty quickly. And then we were just sharing, tips and tricks with friends and family all the time. And my wife was like, you need to make a website. This was back in 2011, 2012.
Okay.
And then I finally broke down in 2015 and rolled out thriftytraveler.com. And it's taken off since. My wife actually now works for us, which is pretty crazy. So it's a family affair.
And what did she study in college?
She has a biology degree.
Okay.
She is definitely putting it to use at Thrifty Traveler. And I have an accounting degree. So, but I mean, some of that real world experience, managing people, in the workplace, when we actually have employees does come in very handy. So while I didn't major in anything related to travel, all of that past experience was pretty valuable.
It's amazing to me because when I was in college, which was a long time ago, but still the way to save money on traveling, you could go and travel and see what you wanted to do was you stay in the hostels, you don't pay a lot for food. Pretty much it was your accommodations, that was your big cost. And then of course your flight. And back then the flights were way more than they are today.
Crazy expensive. Even, man, I think about like 7, 8 years ago, flights
Yeah.
were twice as much as they are now.
I love that you have the travel flight deals on your website too, and that you help people guide through there when is the best time to book a flight and the particular lessons that you learn from doing the research. And people think, oh, they travel all the time. How do they find these deals? Well, it takes time to do those, and you kind of shorten that down with your services that you have, that you're doing the hard work.
Yep. We're just kind of guiding them to, yeah, a cheap and quick solution. Because, yeah, we realize people don't have time to be looking for cheap flights. And if they can get an alert directly into their inbox, I mean, that just makes it so much easier.
So that's the premium service that you offer too, right? That helps travelers kind of press the easy button with how they're going to get there, the transportation.
Yeah, so we have a bunch of different tools that we use to find these cheap flights. And it's pretty simple. Yeah, these aren't like last minute flights or anything like that. They're bookable up to 11 months out. And then as soon
So
as we
not
find
like
them,
ugly departure and arrival times or like
yeah,
you're crunched in the seat.
yeah, we always say that we would never send out a flight deal that we wouldn't want to fly ourselves. So yeah,
I
where
saw
you're not
your
gonna
TEDx talk about friends don't let friends fly Spirit.
yes, that's we've gotten in some hot water over that because there's a lot of people that love Spirit, and Spirit is relatively cheap and Spirit's a lot better than it used to be. But yeah, generally,
You
we
know what? I
always
think that just raises awareness. When I was over in Germany and I flew Ryanair all the time, and people were kind of the same way. They had polarized opinions about the small airlines, and I always thought, well, it's still getting me from point A to point B. Sure, occasionally it feels like we're going to crash when we land, but but we haven't yet. And they had a pretty good safety record, but it cost me 36 euros to go round trip to Spain.
for sure. I mean, I fly Ryanair, I fly EasyJet. It's just in the US a lot of times, the difference in price to fly Spirit after all the fees are factored in and
Yes.
the cost to fly Delta, which we think is, if possibly, the best US airline, isn't really that much different. So that's why we always recommend, people fly Delta if they, it depends on where you're at in the US, of course. Delta is just going to be much easier.
So, what is some credit card advice? The question I get asked more often is I have these credit card reward points, but I'm just not sure how to use them.
No, it's a great question. And we have a great beginner's guide all about credit card travel rewards at thriftytraveler.com. You can just go to the top menu and go to beginner's guide. But the big thing is to just start off kind of slow. First off, credit card debt, which is a huge problem in the US.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be looking at getting a credit card with travel rewards. Pay off your cards, but once you pay off all your credit cards, then you definitely need to be looking at travel rewards and just take it slow at first. Open one card, figure out how to use the points, how to maximize them, the best way possible. What fits for you. If you fly Delta all the time, then maybe American Express, Sky Miles card or some of the other Sky Miles transfer points like American Express membership rewards might make sense for you. But if you're with American or, so on and so forth, it gets so complicated so fast. So yeah, we usually say, like a Chase Sapphire preferred card, something with a very low annual fee, just makes it super easy. And then you can kind of master it. And you're going to have to probably find some websites like thriftytraveler.com that'll kind of walk you through, how to use the points. What's the best way to use the points?
Where is your favorite place to go or favorite places that you have visited?
Yeah, so my wife loves cities and I like mountains. So it's tough. Yeah. I love southern Germany, like Bavaria, like in the Alps and the mountains, or northern Italy in the Dolomites, or anywhere in the mountainous middle of Europe is beautiful. And that's kind of my favorite place, with maybe some delicious food and a big mug of beer and some scenery. That's where I'm happy. We also love Thailand just because it's so cheap. The people are so lovely and it's beautiful there as well.
I love the Dolomites. They are probably my favorite too. I'm a mountains girl. I grew up in the Adirondacks in New York. And so my heart is always, I'm actually finishing a book on Bavaria because I've hiked there a lot too. Do you guys hike?
Yeah, we do a little bit of hiking, nothing too extreme, but yeah, I just love getting out in the fresh air and That's definitely our go-to.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about your YouTube live yesterday? Because I definitely want to share that link.
Yeah. So kind of our big thing at Thrifty Traveler right now is, with so many people having upcoming, flights and, not knowing whether to cancel now or wait for a voucher or hope for a refund. It's just trying to explain to people to know their rights to a refund. If you have a cancellation, you are due a refund as long as it touches US soil on a departure or return. Even if you have, a nonstop flight and it gets changed to having a connection, you're due a refund. And there's a bunch of different scenarios. You go to thriftytraveler.com/refunds and it'll kind of outline through a flow chart, letting you know exactly what you should be doing to ensure you get a refund. Because while a voucher is great, having that cash back in your pocket is just so much better. So that's
Yeah.
kind of what we're doing right now. We've pivoted to, obviously we're still finding flight deals, but we're more like consumer advocates at this
Oh,
point,
that's wonderful.
helping people figure out their future of travel and hopefully, get as much cash back in their pockets as possible.
I actually have a small trip to Colorado, and I think travel within the United States will be okay by
That's our big
then.
thing. Like the future of travel for sure will be domestic opening up first, and people will be kind of confident in traveling domestically. We think about, like national parks or state parks if they're open. I mean, I feel like people are going to be drawn to those, being outside, the social distancing, but still, getting out. And then, depending on if other countries are open and, allowing travel, then slowly international travel. But going to Bali or going to
Yeah.
India or something right now, it just seems so far off. I feel like it's gonna be quite a while till people can travel really far.
So I'm going to shift just a second. I'd like to talk about you have really just gone gangbusters in 5 years as a small business. And part of what Travel with Wendy, what I do is I help small hospitality businesses that are just startups, that are just getting started in business. So what are some tips you could share on new small entrepreneur businesses that are starting out, maybe some successes that you've had or or some don't do these?
Sure. I guess, yeah, my best advice would be to, wherever you're located, to try to find like a local like entrepreneurs organization of some sort, that you can meet, maybe monthly or maybe, a few times a year, and just some peers to kind of bounce ideas off of. And if you're starting a business, having an accountant, because if you're not very financially savvy, might be helpful, or having a banker, banker that you at least know if you have questions. And the same goes with kind of the law side of things, an attorney. You might not need them for years, but just having them in your corner is really important. I think about like we recently got the US federal Paycheck Protection Program, where
Okay.
small businesses could get their payroll funds essentially for 2 months covered by the federal government. And if anyone had seen anything about that in the news, it was quite a rocky rollout of that. But like
Yeah.
I had a local banker that I knew pretty well, and right away I was the squeaky wheel that was like talking to him about it and making sure, that we were going to be able to secure those funds. And we were in like the first 1% of companies in the US that were able to get that funding. It was all because we kind of had an advocate, a person in our corner that
All
at
right.
that
Yeah.
time we needed, and we were able to get those funds, which was a
That's
huge
really,
relief.
yeah, that's huge tip. One of the tips that I learned at the conference too is creatives tend to get out of their lane and and they are not concentrating on the stuff that they're good at. And so they try to do it all and they're just not really great. You really need to have those professionals in place to be successful.
Yeah, it's not glamorous or sexy or exciting, but it's absolutely so important. At first you have to wear so many hats. You have to do almost everything or figure it out, which is so important to being an entrepreneur. But there does become a point where at least once you maybe are making a little bit of money, you need to delegate the stuff that you're not good at or shouldn't be doing out as quickly as possible, so that you can, like you said, focus on the things that you are good at and will make the business successful.
So we've talked a little bit about it, but what are your thoughts about COVID and the future of travel and how to cautiously but optimistically plan travel for the future?
Yeah, so we have a great YouTube video all about booking travel in uncertain times. And you can find that at youtube.com/thrifty traveler. and I'll just kind of outline how we are recommending people book right now. So for flights, I think one of the big lessons that we learned was book directly through the airline. Like, don't book through Priceline or Expedia or Kayak. Like, just use Google Flights to search. That's what we, our Thrifty Traveler Premium subscribers, those are the links that we send them. Google Flights, and then follow the links through Google Flights to book directly through the airline. Because if you have to cancel or get a voucher or a refund, so much easier just to deal directly with the airline.
Sure. Sure.
Our second tip is to always book all travel with a credit card, just in case, let's say that you're going on a trip and you have a tour, or and the tour company, maybe goes out of business, or the airline goes out of business. You usually only have 120 days to do a chargeback, but at least with a credit card, it's so much easier than a debit card.
Sure.
So that's a big thing. The other one is just kind of trying to avoid all non-refundable travel. So, if you're going on a cruise or a tour, or you're staying in a hotel, make sure that it is at least partially refundable, because, we just don't know, a fall trip, or, 6-9 months out, it's just going to be really tough because no one knows what's going to happen. So
Exactly.
we always try to future proof our trips. And I know you were talking about Delta Sky Miles earlier. This is our number one way that we're recommending people book flights right now, is using their Delta Sky Miles if they have them, because
Okay.
Delta's just been amazing, and they're allowing anyone who books, within, the next month or two. You'd have to go to delta.com depending on when you're watching this video. But if you use your Sky Miles, you can just cancel the booking in the future, and they'll redeposit your Sky Miles and refund your taxes and fees, and you can do it all online.
I've been getting their newsletter about once a week with the updates from the CEO, and that's really given me a sense of assurance about my future flight.
And just in this crisis, we always say that the companies, that you love and follow during a crisis is when these companies show their true colors. Are they helping their customers, or are they kind of hindering? Delta hasn't really shifted much at all. And, from a customer service standpoint, they've kind of stepped up and made the rules relatively easy to follow. So yeah, when we see this stuff, this is what I work in the trenches every day with these airlines, and we see the new rules and the changes, and most people don't know about this stuff. Of course, we post about it at thriftytraveler.com, but there was one more tip kind of for being in uncertain times. And that was, if you're going to be booking, flight through summer of 2020 and onward, avoid booking with a foreign carrier. So like, let's say that you were flying like Lufthansa to Europe. Normally that's a great airline, but it might not be an airline that if you have to cancel and get a voucher for, you'd want to have a Lufthansa voucher. You'd rather have a United voucher or a Delta voucher or an American voucher, because it's just going to be so much easier to reuse it in the future. So we're just trying to say, while there's amazing foreign airlines worldwide, try to avoid booking on them, right now during this COVID time period, because if you have to cancel and get a voucher, it's just going to be really tough to rebook, or more difficult. It won't be really tough, but it'll be just more difficult than,
Sure.
one on a US carrier. And things are going to change so much, even from the time we're shooting this interview, and then there's going to be so much news. So you can go to thriftytraveler.com/COVID-19, all one word. And we'll have the newest updates on all the travel news that you need to know.
And Jared, do you have a Facebook presence?
Yep. Thrifty Traveler on Facebook, at Thrifty Traveler on Instagram and Twitter. We're on pretty much everything.
Everything. Okay.
And definitely check out some of our newer videos on YouTube at youtube.com/Thrifty Traveler. I think we're going to be having another sale coming up. So definitely check out thriftytraveler.com/university. And we talked about our premium service earlier, which is thriftytraveler.com/premium.
Awesome. Excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining me here today. Thanks for coming on Talking Travel with Wendy, my blog. I so appreciate you being here and just giving us some tips and wisdom and knowledge to cautiously plan future travel.
No, thanks for having me, Wendy. I always love talking travel and answering everybody's questions.
Yeah, your company really helps people fulfill dreams. If they're just nervous about travel planning, you kind of lay it out there and say, just breathe, do this, and you can go.
Mm-hmm. It'll be back, and just trying to have all the knowledge that you can to make smart travel decisions is what we're shooting for right now.
Well, thank you.
Thanks.